few or as many words as you like. Why do you train?
Because I want to be fat.
Okay.
Well, you know, I spent my entire childhood like not in human form. I was so fat, and then I had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend, who somehow found me attractive. Well, later, she turned out that she didn't find me attractive. She said she only stayed with me because I used to give her a lift to college and back. But anyway, it was her dad or stepdad, sorry, that introduced me to Don Styler's gym. Actually, no, that's not what happened. First, what happened was he took me for a workout in his little garage gym that had like a little thin Argos style barbell and some £20, £30 plates. And the first thing we did was train legs. It was horrendous. I remember I was doing a performance of Mozart's Requiem with the college choir at the time, and you had to stand up and sit down a lot in that particular choral piece. I say there's a lot of standing up and sitting down, and yeah, the very first time I'd done squats ever was the day before the rehearsal for the main event, and then the main event subsequently in the evening. That wasn't fun. But yeah, about a little while after that, he introduced me to Don Styler's gym, and started training there. Never looked back. No, the funny thing about that place is that nobody would talk to me when I was fat. It's like a proper old school gym. You had to earn the right to, be spoken to. Like they were always polite. They'd be like, "Hello, goodbye, how are you?" But beyond that, there was no talking during my workouts until I lost all the weight in the summer of must have been 2010, and they all of a sudden started talking to me. These old men who'd been training there week in, week out since the 50s or the 60s. And I said to them, "Why are you talking to me now?" And one of them looked at me and he said, "Oh, well, you're in good shape now, so you can afford to stop and have a chat." You know, it's interesting, isn't it, how attitudes have changed?
So, I mean, getting a girl and the respective men you looked up to were your reasons then, I guess. What about now?
Oh, getting a girl. Yeah, no. So, yeah, I mean, I lost that girl. She dumped me the moment she went to university. Funny that. And yeah, so I did want to be not fat so that I could get laid. Turns out it doesn't help if you've got no personality. Personality of a brick, which I did. Um, all the muscles in the world won't help you there. But no, I train now because I've got two kids, haven't I? Marcus and Connie. See, I even remembered their names.
Father of the year.
Yeah, I am. Um, and yeah, I used to train just to be big and strong, right? Because I thought that was what it was to be a man, I suppose. Um, and don't get me wrong, like for a time, that was the right way to do it. That was the right way to go about it. But not anymore. I've got two kids now, and I'd rather not die of preventable disease. So that's why I train now. Um, yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I've not had such a compelling reason to train until I had the kids. Um, so it does make you wonder why I continue to train through my 20s with no compelling reason beyond training. But I think it was just personal development, actually. Like I knew it was essential to not be fat, but also to be better in some intangible way. So I just kept on doing it.
I was
Uh,
going to say there was a whole load of character building. They say that the action or habit becomes character when you do it without thinking, kind of thing.
yeah, sure, that sounds very clever. Look at you, all smart.
So yeah, so
It's
like
almost like you've read books.
read your books.
Yeah.
You just keep doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
on the view one day of having me and family,
Yeah,
hopefully.
molding you to my particular ways.
So on the back of that question, do you want our kids to go to the gym? And I don't mean just be fit and healthy because that's an obvious and that's something that we've already started um, instilling in them. But in the way that weightlifting is a sport in some ways, would you want them to engage in that particular activity? If so, when, how, why?
Well, the short answer to that question is yes, because there are no downsides to training. There are absolutely no downsides to training, unless you've got some sort of rare disease that will, kill you or something if you exercise too hard. Apparently they exist.
Our children don't have them.
No, like mitochondrial diseases and things can do that, but my kids don't have that, so they've got no excuse. It'll be a net gain for them. Um, so yes, of course I do, but I'll never force them because I believe it's to me to lead by example. I'm the one making the claim, therefore I'm the one who has to back it up in both in my words and my actions. So hopefully they'll see the effect it has on me, they'll see the effect it has on you, and they'll say to me, "Oh, Dad, can I go to the gym with you?" And I'll say, "Yeah." Simple, and then I'll teach them what I know. But if they don't want to do that, that's fine. I understand. I understand training isn't for everyone in the way that I do it, but I would hope they see the value in in training in some way, shape, or form over and above just exercise. Because training, exercise, different words. They mean different things. So exercise is something that you do to get hot, sweaty, and sore, whereas training is something that you do. It involves getting hot, sweaty, and sore, but it's done with a specific purpose to achieve a specific end. So, say Connie, she's a girl, so she's probably going to get involved in dancing or maybe gymnastics. Now, she doesn't necessarily need to go into the weight room for either of those things. It will definitely make her a better dancer or gymnast because strength is the preeminent athletic characteristic in that it makes all of the other ones better to a certain point. So I would hope that she would do that. But she wouldn't have to because you could still train ballet, you can still train gymnastics without necessarily like a gym based component to a certain level. So that would be fine. Marcus, again, probably going to play football. Again, you can train football, all the skill work and things like that without necessarily going to the gym. But again, if you go to the gym, you will be better. You'll become a better footballer to a certain point.
I'm not sure if this is something you would want to comment on, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's your take or what's your opinion on the fact that most gyms don't allow under 16s to train in their gyms? And obviously, if we don't have space to have a home gym, or if family doesn't have space to have a home gym, that kids that won't have access to a barbell, that kind of thing, until they're
Well, we always have access to a home gym. So there's loads. So firstly, the second part of your question is incorrect because well, we right now, I mean, we're gonna have to potentially remodel downstairs a little bit, but we could have a small Argos weight set at home, which would be perfectly sufficient for a child. And you could probably fit one of those into most dwellings. And if you can't fit one into your dwelling, then well, maybe I suggest that you work on your financial situation so that you can. Probably be the priority. And even then, like you've got parks with like body weight training and equipment. Kids do really well with body weight training for all sorts of reasons that are beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. So you can take them. We've got South Park down the road, haven't we? And there's the monkey bars. There's actually like parallel bars and chin up bars. And at West Park, there's basic
got pull
exercise equipment.
downs and stuff that use a lot
Yeah,
of
lat
body
pull
weight.
downs and I don't know how. I don't know. Are they body weight
You have to
based?
sit on them. They use you as the weight, so they're not easy.
No. Well, if you're not, if you're fat.
No,
Um,
or weak.
yeah, or both.
Mm.
Okay, well, yeah. So that's for starters. But should gyms not allowing kids? I understand. I understand. There's a lot of concern. Some of it warranted, some of it not around kids and lifting weights. Now, far be it from me to actually offer any prescriptive advice in this regard. I do think a lot of that concern is misplaced. Again, it's like anything. It's like how you train a kid. You know, I do know that all the talk about weightlifting stunting growth, particularly, is the biggest concern often put towards like youth athletes and things. It doesn't make much sense to me insofar as I understand the biology of that because it's to do with they say it will close the growth plates prematurely because of, but to to damage a growth plate enough to actually force it to stop working. You're talking. There's a procedure that's medical procedure that's done called intraosseous injection, which is where you put a big old needle into a leg or at the top of the humerus, top of the arm. Now, in a child placed incorrectly, that can stunt their growth because you've just put an 8 gauge needle or whatever through the growth plate, and that can cause damage to the limb. Um, or serious fractures and things can cause
Or
problems.
accidents, that
Yeah,
kind of
that
thing.
sort of thing. But I don't see how those forces are replicated in the weight room. especially when you consider that weightlifting has actually per 1,000 hours of training. There was a good study done, which I can't remember the authors or the name of the study, but it does exist, and if you were to Google it, you probably find it. There was a study done per 1,000 hours of training, like weightlifting is one of the safest, if not the safest, activity you can do. And if you think about it, when you go into a weight room, you're doing it's a controlled activity. You know what weight you're using. You know for how many reps you're going to do with that weight. You know how many sets you're going to do. You also can feel muscle failure coming up on you, so you can stop. Obviously, catastrophic things can happen, like you can trip over your bag when you're walking out a squat or whatever. And this goes for not just kids, by the way. There are obviously risks of injury. Sometimes the most random of things can just happen. Like I remember I pinged my lower back once, like with an empty bar. I don't even know how it happened. It just happened. It just pinged, and I was laid up. Wasn't laid up, but I struggled for about a month after that. So yeah, I don't. I just don't see how that's higher risk necessarily than say like football, where you're charging around, tremendous forces going through your body as you change the direction, and there's the risk of being fouled, just slipping on wet mud and wrenching a leg out of joint. All the
Scooter at the skate park,
Oh
like
yeah, exactly.
edges.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think there's a lot of things people are afraid of are often cultural more than practical. There are associations with gyms and weightlifting that cause people to be more concerned about them than they are other activities that are objectively to any rational observer more dangerous. But yeah, no. What you asked me about gyms? What's my view on gyms? I mean, it's up to the owner's discretion, isn't it? It's their gym, it's their insurance policy, it's what their membership want. I can imagine with the behaviour of most children don't behave like our children, Jess. Most children are shit stains. They are because they're not parented, and they'd be running around screaming, causing all sorts of problems. I remember I trained at a gym actually in Kent um, when I lived there. It was like a 24-hour chain place, and they had an arrangement with the local college where the local college kids could use the gym for like a certain number of set hours. I used to hate being in there. I was working shifts at the time, so I didn't have a choice sometimes to go in there when the college kids were there. And these are like 16, 17 year olds.
Yeah, I was going to say they're 16 to 18.
And they were trashing the place. Just utterly trashing the place and behaving like idiots. So I can see why as a gym owner, I wouldn't want anyone's kids coming to the gym.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because yeah, say parents don't. Most kids don't behave like our kids behave. So yeah,
So talking about kids and obviously wanting them to have a fit and healthy life, neither you nor I had a fit and healthy youth. And
no,
we had a conversation as we were walking through the dock this morning, about our peak. And
yeah,
you said you think that you know that your peak days are behind you.
yeah.
I've said mine are still ahead because my fat days spreaded a lot longer than yours did. So I'm still enjoying being on the up of losing weight and getting fit. But when was your peak?
My peak was in 2017. I was 26 years old. It was about March time, I think.
It's a little bit sad that you know when
It
it
was
was.
a specific workout on a Tuesday afternoon after work, and I walked into the gym. It was a normal day. I didn't plan for this. I didn't plan for this at all. It was just a normal day. I'd been out on the weekend drinking heavily as I was wont to do back then. But just finished the day at work. I had my job was based as a non-job. It wasn't stressful, or I was just sitting in a chair in an office looking at a computer screen. It was lovely. Um, and yeah, I just walked into the gym and started squatting. And I did 100. It was a lifetime PB, 180 kilos for 10 reps, 10 good clean reps, all the way to the floor. My butt touching my calves, no belt, no wraps, no sleeves, nothing. So I did that, and I was like, bloody hell, that was really good. And it came out of nowhere as well. It was really good. And then after I did that, my next exercise up was bench press because I was training full body 6 days a week at the time because my entire life revolved around training at that particular point. And so I was doing like squat and bench press together, deadlift, bench press. I can't remember the exact split, but there was a lot of benching and a lot of squatting and a lot of deadlifting and a lot of overhead pressing. Um, so anyway, bench press was up next. It was for reps, lighter for reps, and my work set was 90 kilos. And I asked a very pretty young lady to spot me because she was not because she was pretty. She was just the only person who wasn't doing anything at the time. And the reason I asked her to spot me with what was relatively a lightweight for me at the time was because um, I just done that set of squats, and I was like, oh well, I'm probably a bit fatigued. I've got to be a little bit careful. I'm a little bit fatigued, and I was expecting to maybe get a dozen reps, maybe a dozen reps with 90. I ended up doing 24, um, and each of those reps went all the way down to the chest with a half-second pause. And the first thing I did after I finished the set was I sat up and I looked at her, and I was just like, look, I didn't ask you to spot me because I wanted to impress you to get your number or anything. I know it looks like that, but genuinely that wasn't why I did it.
Yeah.
I don't think she believed me. Um,
Unsurprising.
well, no, yeah, I mean, I look like a right prick. But yeah, no, that was my peak.
Yeah.
I have never done, I've never achieved either of those specific activities before. Sorry, since, yeah, I've never achieved those specific activities since. And I've come close, but I've never met or exceeded them. And if looking at other lifts I was doing at the time as well, like my overhead press and things like that, my overhead press specifically was very very strong. Um, I know now that I'm not going to hit that again. You know, I was 27, 26. Sorry, it was 2017. I was 26. I'm not great with my age. See, I'm getting old. Um, Also, because I'm a lifetime natural athlete, I've never touched any any performance enhancing substances of any kind. Um, it has been, it's inevitable that now I'm in my 30s. I'm not going to hit what I hit before. Now, on the internet, you'll see lots of people, guys in their 30s, who continue to get stronger. Um, so who and I'm not just talking about. We'll move on to your situation in a minute, but I'm not just talking about like guys who were fat or didn't really train and started training in their 30s and then continue to get stronger, because obviously they're going to. I'm talking about guys with a similar situation to me, like training from their teens, continuing to PB and continuing to get stronger way into their 30s and beyond. um, I cannot prove this, because people don't admit to it publicly,
Yeah.
but privately, based on speaking to people and also just a little bit of critical thinking, these guys are having help, usually in the form of TRT therapy, so testosterone replacement therapy, to jack up their testosterone levels to what they were in their early 20s, which is not natural. I know you can get it prescribed and all that other shit from a doctor, but if you think that's natural, it's just cope. Or they're just taking whatever Johnny G says is brewed up in his bathtub this week, to actually achieve that. Because actually, let's use the TRT example. Let's pretend that you're a guy and you're in your 30s and you're taking TRT to keep your testosterone levels constant to what they were in your 20s. Well, of course you're going to continue to PR, because you're adding your experience and the muscle that you're building. You're just going to continue to get stronger and more muscular.
Yeah.
It's not anything to do with your training. It's the drugs. It's the bloody drugs.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with your training. But a lot of guys seem to think that it is. Having spoken to guys who are on TRT who think that they're something special because they're doing wonderful things. It's like, it's not your training, dude. You will get a decline in your peak strength levels. Because if we think about this as well as like human beings, like before modern society, what was the life expectancy of a person, Jess?
40s?
I
That was
think
long.
I think it was like
45?
40s. Yeah, I don't think us humans without medicine are destined to live particularly long. I know like very privileged people like Aristotle and well, Socrates killed himself, didn't he? He was told to kill himself. But I know like the great Greek philosophers and things, thousands of years ago, lived till their 70s and 80s sometimes. But they were extraordinary privileged lives. And actually, if we go back even further, like before civilization at all, I don't think people live much past their 30s or 40s.
No.
So of course you're not going to continue to peak, because my body should be winding out to die at this point,
Yeah.
and it's only because of civilization that it's not. Um, but the cool thing about this is that when you make that transition, like when you accept this, actually it's okay, and you can start working on other things.
Well, that was the other thing that we've talked a lot about lately, isn't it? About our change in focus to, what did you say this morning? Looking healthy to being healthy.
That was the one. Looking healthy to being healthy. Most guys who lift weights and they look great, and this goes for people on the internet that you see as well. Blimey, our cats appear to be chirping at each other. That's cute. Um, yeah, these guys they look healthy, but they struggle to run a mile. I actually saw on YouTube a little while ago. I don't seek out fitness content, as you know, but it finds me because of the nature of our work. And yeah, it was this guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna run a mile, or I'm gonna run like yeah, I'm gonna run a mile every day for a month or something." It was like, and he really struggled with it. And it's like he's got big muscles and a six pack. He looks great. He's fucking got the heart and lungs of an 80-year-old.
How do you think you would have managed running a mile after that peak
Oh,
workout?
I couldn't do it. I'll tell you how I know I couldn't do it. So when I moved over to where I was living, I walked to work and back. And my original plan, it was about a 1.75, 2 mile journey from my house to my workplace. And my original plan was to run to work. Because I could get to work, because I don't have a car, and I couldn't run to work. I tried to run once, and I got about 200 meters, and it was only with a light rucksack with the laptop in it on, and I just couldn't continue. I just couldn't carry on, so I just walked. And at various points when I was there, I over the kind of 8-10 months I was there, I tried to run this distance to work, and I was never able to manage more than a few hundred meters without just feeling like I was going to die, like exceeding my lactate threshold, feeling the buildup of lactic acid from a simple jog, which means that I wasn't aerobically respiring, which means that I was terribly unfit because I couldn't handle even a slightly faster than walking pace jog.
Mhm.
And yet, well, you've seen pictures. I had like lovely big round and full muscles. I was relatively light as well. I very lean, and I looked the healthiest I've ever looked. I looked healthier than I do now, arguably. And yet, I could not run half a mile. That's bollocks, isn't it?
Mhm.
And it's not. It's no way to live. So as I say, as you get older, you can. Oh well, maybe I'm not going to be able to be Mr. Strong and muscular, but now I can be healthy and start working on this cardio stuff, which we've been doing, and it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. We have. I've certainly. We I noticed it specifically. We went to Butlins a couple of weeks ago, and I needed to pop to the toilet before the start of the Skyline Gang, which is our daughter's favourite entertainment at Butlins.
And mine.
And yours.
I
Most
like Mimi.
she's slim and pretty. Anyway, it was about to start, and I wanted to run to the loo before it started, and I thought, oh, I'll just jog to the toilets, and it felt like an out of body experience to be moving so quickly and not be in discomfort or out of breath. And that's very strange for me.
Well, you used to get out of breath up on a slight incline, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was saying to you, the docks near where we live, there's three swing bridges between our house and the centre of town, and the second one is quite a steep incline up to the bridge. And when we first moved here,
It's not quite a steep incline.
it's really not. You're right.
It's more than like it's noticeable in that you can see it from a distance, but it's not steep. It's not like a bloody hill.
I got speed up on it on my scooter the other day.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's not a hill,
No, and it's not. It's probably what 100 meters.
if that.
And I used to get out of breath, and if I was pushing the pram, I had to do that put the push of shame where you have to lean forwards and push your arms out in front of you because you're pushing something heavy up a hill. And yesterday I ran up the hill twice as part of my 3 mile run loop. So
Oopsie.
bring on the peak, eh?
Well, yeah, as I say, it's it's an essential thing, and there are other things that I used to struggle with when I was uber strong and uber lean. I think simple things like energy levels. Like I used to struggle terribly with my energy levels. I would be at work, right, in my comfortable job, and my concentration would just crater in the afternoon. I'd be sleepy, I'd be tired, and and genuinely sometimes it would actually affect my training because I would go into the gym just feeling sleepy. As I just sat on my ass all day, I've not done anything. Like mental tired, but it wasn't just mental tiredness; it was a physical tiredness because of inability to regulate my energy levels. But now I have this incredible sense of constantness of my energy levels. Like I wake up right 4:15 every morning, and I'm not tired when I wake up. So often I'll wake up before my alarm, good 3 or 4 minutes before my alarm, which is nice. Yeah, I get up, and then from that point until when I go to sleep at night, which is about 7:30, 8 o'clock, my energy levels are completely flat. Now, I'm not. A lot of people will say, oh, with exercise, it gives you like this sense of incredible energy, or other marketing bollocks like that. I don't think that's true. Um, even desirable, really. Like, why would you want to be having this bouncing around on a high? I don't know. But essentially, I have exactly as much energy as I need to do everything, accomplish everything I need to accomplish during the day without feeling tired at any point. And then once it starts getting dark outside, my brain starts going, "Oh, it's time to go to sleep now," and I just go to sleep.
It's funny, your energy, like, you just hit a point and you go, yeah, it's sleep time, and you fall asleep
At the right
very
time, but it's
quickly.
an appropriate
Oh
time.
yeah,
Like it's appropriate to feel tired and want to
yeah,
get into bed at 7:30, or was it 7, 7:30? Sleep at 8 o'clock when you get up at 4:15. That's completely appropriate.
yeah.
Especially as up until that point, I do not feel tired at all, ever. Um,
Just as an aside, you had a conversation with a guy in the gym the other day, didn't you? About, well, what do you do in the evening? Because he was quite shocked that you go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock,
oh yeah, he was.
and you said, other than watch telly and scroll on your phone, you went, well, yeah, I just watch a bit of telly and scroll on my
Yeah,
phone.
because especially in the winter, because in the winter you can't even do anything productive because it's too dark. Like I've got my Warhammer models that I want to do, but it's too dark to do them in the winter. I need you need natural light to do that sort of thing. I suppose we could buy like a natural light bulb or something like that, but it's just a ball ache, isn't it?
Well, we've got two up lights and two down lights in our
It's
house.
still not
It
enough.
wouldn't be
It's
enough.
still not quite right. So it's almost like the world's telling you something. And, if your activity of choice needs a backlight,
Yeah,
then
it
maybe
is probably
maybe
not
it's
a natural
yeah.
time to
And
do
I,
it.
and I know that I'm sure over this in the summer I'd be interested to see, but I'm fairly convinced that in the summer I'll probably go to bed at about 9:30, 10, and still get up at 4:15 because I'm in tune with the light. One of the
Mm,
reasons I'm getting tired is because it's dark outside, and our bodies actually react to that. That's why night shifts, are very dangerous, long
mm.
term health consequences of them. I mean, dangerous and necessary in the near term, unless you fall asleep driving your car on the way home. But certainly the long term health consequences of it because it's messing with your body clock.
Yeah, well, there was an article this morning I read about blue light affecting the way our body metabolizes sugar.
Mm.
And so, yeah, just going to sleep when it's dark.
Yeah,
Stick to the natural light,
yeah,
natural timers that you've
yeah.
got.
But yeah, to that guy, I just said, well, he said, yeah, and he said, oh, don't do anything. I said, well, there you go then. I just the only difference between you and I is that I don't scroll on my phone until 10 o'clock at night. That's
Mm,
literally the only difference.
yeah,
Oh, and obviously I get up earlier, but that allows me to get up earlier, which means I get more stuff done.
yeah.
So, because life is for living. I'm going to sleep plenty when I'm dead.
And on that bombshell, I think that's probably a lot covered for today. I will think of more things to pick out of your brain, and we will come back on and record our musings.
Lovely.